And Aaron, President Trump met with executives from defense companies at the White House today. Was this related to getting more weapons for the war?
The White House maintains that this was a meeting set up for weeks, pre-scheduled to talk about rapidly increasing the ability of U.S. manufacturers to produce American-made weapons. The president signed an executive order to this effect in early February. But the president did write on Truth Social that these CEOs agreed to quadruple production of their highest-class weaponry, and that expansion of that began 3 months before today's meeting. You're seeing the full post on your screen there. He also wrote that while the U.S. has a, quote, virtually unlimited supply of medium and upper medium grade munitions that are being used in Iran were used in Venezuela, there's also been an increase in orders for those weapons. He said that another meeting is scheduled in 2 months. But this meeting comes at the same time that there's been reports that the White House will also ask Congress for a supplemental budget for a request for more money to replace weapons used in the Middle East. So things are, they're definitely all certainly related.
Thank you so much. All right, to get more perspectives on this, let's turn to J.D. Simkins, the editor-in-chief of Military Times and Defense News. J.D., great to be with you again. The president met with defense contractors and emphasized the speed to get more weapons made. What does that tell you about our munition supply?
Well, I think despite the claims right now that the meeting was scheduled 3 weeks ago or whenever the timeline was, I think it points to just the rapid pace at which some of these munitions are being expended. I think, we saw Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth in a briefing yesterday alongside CENTCOM Commander Admiral Brad Cooper was talking about, that there is no shortage of the munition stockpile. This would obviously seem to run a little bit at odds with the sense of urgency being conveyed at bringing in some of these defense contractors and urging them to up production at the rate that they are discussing. And this is also on the heels of, in January, Lockheed Martin had already agreed to over a 7-year contract span to ramp up production of Patriot missiles upwards of something like 2,000 a year, up from around 600 or 500 in the years preceding it. It was already in the works, but the sense of urgency is something that I think is definitely related to what we're seeing unfold.
Yesterday, J.D., you mentioned the big question on the minds of people, especially in the military, is whether or not there will be boots on the ground as this war carries on. Now that warfare has evolved to use more autonomous drones and AI technology, CENTCOM released this video of Iranian drone carrier struck and say that they launched 2,000 drones so far. Do we know anything about Iran's supply of drones?
Well, Iran's drone production capacity is relatively astonishing when you look at it. Many reports suggest they produce around 10,000 drones per month. So many of these are produced out of dual-use plants or repurposed facilities. And that production level, I think, is obviously why the U.S. has focused so much of their attacks on dismantling Iran's munition facilities, their weapons facilities, but the success of that remains to be seen. Obviously, as Aaron mentioned, we heard from Admiral Brad Cooper yesterday where he was mentioning that ballistic missile attacks are down 90% since day one of the war, and drone attacks are down 83% in that same span. So I think, under normal circumstances, this is something that